the small town of Ashvale, there is a stretch of road locals refuse to travel after sundown. Known simply as Devil's Mile, it has earned a grim reputation for its mysterious accidents and unexplainable disappearances. Over the years, countless lives have been lost to the road, but none of the accidents were ever normal. Witnesses spoke of eerie apparitions, sudden malfunctions, and figures darting in front of vehicles. It wasn't long before people began whispering that Devil's Mile was cursed, but for outsiders, it was just another urban legend, a local ghost story to keep people on edge. That's what Liam, a 25-year-old journalist, thought when he was sent to Ashvale to write an article on the infamous road. His editor had scoffed at the story, but believed it would bring clicks if marketed as a Halloween special. Eager to prove himself, Liam decided to not only write the story, but also experience the road firsthand. Liam arrived in Ashvale on a crisp autumn afternoon. As he drove into town, he noticed how desolate and weathered it felt. The buildings were old, their paint chipped and faded. The streets were eerily empty, with only a few locals giving him curious glances. His GPS led him to the local diner where he hoped to gather information. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. An old-fashioned jukebox hummed quietly in the corner, playing a somber tune. A handful of patrons sat hunched over their meals, their conversations muted. When Liam approached the counter and asked the waitress about Devil's Mile, the room fell silent. The waitress, Martha, stiffened, her eyes narrowing. "You're not from around here, are you?" she asked, wiping her hands on her apron. Liam shook his head. "No, just passing through. I'm writing an article about the road." "Heard it's haunted?" Martha exchanged a glance with a burly man at the counter, old Joe, who was known to have lived in Ashvale his entire life. Joe let out a slow, raspy sigh, then spoke up. "It's not just haunted, son. That road is cursed. Always has been. No one who messes with it comes back the same." Intrigued, Liam pressed for more information, but the diner's patrons became reluctant to share details, warning him to leave before it was too late. Joe finally agreed to tell him the truth, his voice low and grave. "It all started in the 1940s, Joe explained. Back then, it was called Ashvale Pass. There was a family, the Millers, living on a farm at the end of the road. One night, the father, Thomas Miller, was driving his wife and 2 daughters home when they were hit head-on by a drunk driver. There was no one around to help them. They died, trapped in their burning car." Joe paused, his eyes glazing over with memory. "The road changed after that. People said they saw the Miller girls on the side of the road, waiting for help that never came. Over the years, more accidents happened, always at night, always under strange circumstances. Drivers swerved to avoid people that weren't really there, or their cars would just shut down without warning. Some never made it home." As Joe finished, a chill ran down Liam's spine. The air in the diner felt thick with the weight of untold stories. Still skeptical, but intrigued, Liam decided he needed to experience the road himself. He ignored the warnings and made plans to drive down Devil's Mile at night. Before leaving, Martha handed him a small wooden cross. "Take this," she said, her face pale. "And don't stop. No matter what you see, no matter who you think you hear, don't stop." With the cross clutched in his hand, Liam headed to his car. The sun was setting as he reached the start of Devil's Mile. The road stretched out before him, a narrow, unlit path winding through dense, overhanging trees. The farther he drove, the more oppressive the darkness became. The only sound was the hum of his engine and the crunch of gravel under his tires. Suddenly, his headlights flickered and a strange fog rolled in, thick and unnatural. His GPS lost signal. Liam's heart rate quickened, but he pushed forward, remembering Martha's words, "Don't stop." As he continued, shadows darted in the periphery of his vision. He could hear whispers, faint and distant, like children calling out for help. His hands tightened around the steering wheel, knuckles white. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a figure on the side of the road, a little girl in a white dress, her face obscured by the shadows. His first instinct was to stop, but a cold dread washed over him, and he remembered the warnings. He pressed harder on the gas. The fog grew thicker, and the temperature inside the car dropped. Liam's breath formed small clouds in front of him. The whispers became louder, more urgent. They were no longer distant. They were inside the car. Panic set in, but he kept driving. Suddenly, the engine sputtered, and the car came to a dead stop. The fog swirled around the vehicle, and in the rearview mirror, Liam saw them, the Miller family, standing in the middle of the road. Their bodies were twisted and charred from the accident, their faces frozen in agony. The two girls stepped closer, their hollow eyes locked on him. Liam fumbled for the cross Martha had given him, clutching it tightly as the girls approached the car. The whispers became deafening, echoing in his head. "Help us! Help us!" Tears streamed down his face as he screamed, "I'm sorry. I can't help you." In the blink of an eye, the figures vanished and the engine roared to life. Without hesitation, Liam sped down the road, not daring to look back. When he finally emerged from Devil's Mile, he pulled over, shaking uncontrollably. His phone buzzed to life, dozens of missed calls from his editor. He tried to steady his breathing as the night seemed to calm, but something wasn't right. In the reflection of the rear-view mirror, he saw her, the little girl in the white dress, sitting quietly in the back seat. Her voice a faint whisper. "You stopped